talk about JavaScript. I'm going to do a few tests with JavaScript. As I said before, I didn't prepare anything. I will just keep coding and coding with your help. So JavaScript is a functional programming language. That means that it's all about creating functions. So you'll see that I'm going to create lots of different functions. For instance, the most simplistic function I can imagine with JavaScript, I can type function, right? You see the screen, then the name of the function, hello, and then I'm going to open and close parentheses. Look how simple this actually is. I just need to return something on the function. If I do return hello meetup, something like that, right? That's it. That's my function. There is nothing simpler than that in JavaScript. You type function, name of the function, and then what that function returns. In that case, just a message, right? So I can invoke this function. So I can come here and say hello, open and close parentheses. You'll see in a minute why we need the parentheses. But for now, hey, if I type enter, you can probably see at the bottom, this is the output. So it displays hello meetup, right? Easy. It's not very exotic, right?
Is there like an online compiler for this?
Yeah, so we're using Chrome DevTools.
Okay.
Yes, so you can go to Chrome, do right click, inspect, and try to find the sources tab on top. Once you go to the sources tab, on the left-hand side, you'll see something called snippets, right? This is my favorite way to play around with JavaScript because you can save the snippet, you can go back the day after, they get persisted into your local system. Right. So this is the function. Obviously, you can type here whatever you want, right? So if I type few exclamation marks, as soon as I run the snippet, you see, that's it, right? It's not complicated at all. How do you run the snippet? That's a really good question. If you notice, on the right-hand side of the screen, you got a button to run the snippet. You see, when you hover over the button, at the bottom, it says run snippet. There is a shortcut. For Mac users, the shortcut is Command Enter. So if I type anywhere Command Enter, the snippet gets executed. For Windows users, I believe it's Control Enter. Any other question? No? We're good? Yeah, simple, right? So let's start creating something slightly more sexy, if you want. So at the moment, it always returns the same thing, right? So it's boring. I can run example as many times as I want, but just a message, right? But let's customize the message. Look what I'm going to do. So I'm going to pass a variable. I'm going to pass a variable here in the parentheses. You remember the parentheses? Yep. So I'm going to pass a string, a piece of text. So depending on the text that I pass here, the message will be different. For example, I'm going to do that. Hello, Donald. So what do you think it will happen if I run the snippet? Now, what the message will be? Hello, Donald. No.
There is no parameter on the
Exactly. So at the moment, nothing will actually change, right? And I can prove that. Look, still hello meetup, right? Why? Because even we are setting up a parameter here, the hello function is not using it. This is hard-coded, right? So how can we display hello Donald instead of hello meetup? Exactly. You are right. So whenever we pass an argument here, this is a string because of the quotes. That means that we can take that argument here on the definition of the function. So I'm going to call. Sir?
Sorry,
Yeah.
when you're trying to call the function hello
Yeah.
Donald, there is one argument passed in the function.
Correct.
But the function hello doesn't have any argument.
Exactly.
So how will it not throw error?
No. That's a good question, actually. That's a good question. I can pass as many arguments as I want here. Hello, welcome, blah, 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 blah. They will be simply ignored. No errors, right? No errors at all. I know that In other languages, that will throw an error because other languages are more strict. But JavaScript is very flexible, which is good for some things, but it's not good for others. But for that particular case, hey, still works. We haven't broken, right? So, hey, all good. Right, so let me back to the previous example. We got Donald here, and I want to display hello Donald. So on the hello function, I can actually define a variable that will refer to that variable. So I can type whatever I want, I'll be honest, whatever you want. So you can type character. So if we do that, whenever we call hello with something in the parentheses, that thing in the parentheses will be assigned to that variable, right? So because of that, I can do that, hello, and then the name of the character. Let me run the example. Hello, Donald. At the bottom, we pass a variable, then we take the variable on the function, and we display it. Make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Any question?
Default data type specified character.
Default what?
It's a default data type.
No. There is no default. That's a good question. There is no default data type. At the moment, this is what we call a string.
Yeah.
But that could be a number, that could be a Boolean, that could be an array, that could be an object, that could be a function, that could be whatever. We'll make it more complicated, right? So we'll see. For now, simple, hello Donald, right? That's it. But again, we want to make it a little bit more complicated, right? I'm going to show you another way to combine strings and variables, right? So this is classic JavaScript. This has been working since 1991. However, since 2011, there is a different way to do that, slightly more elegant, right? The reason why I would like to show it to you is because here we are training people to get a job. And when you want to get a job, usually you'll have to do an interview, right? So if on the interview you prove that you can code with modern JavaScript, not with 1991 JavaScript, with most of you probably were not even born, that proves that you are up to date, that you have learned modern JavaScript, right? Modern JavaScript will be very useful to do more, writing less. So I'm going to show you an alternative. I'm going to comment that line. If you add a couple of slashes, you see that it changed the color, so this line will be ignored. I'm going to leave it there just for reference. But look what I'm going to do. So with modern JavaScript, you can do something quite nice called template literals. You ever heard of template literals? No? Right. So the problem with classic JavaScript is this is quite error prone. You need to add the quote, then the space, and then you need to add a plus, and then the variable. I don't know. I mean, for this case, it's okay. It's very simple. But imagine that you have a complex message that you want to display to your users, like an email template. Hello, my friend, blah, 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 and some variables, you know. This may be difficult to read. Because of that, with modern JavaScript, we can use template literals. Template literals, look how they look like. So we can do backticks. This probably, you've never used that on your keyboard because and backs is at the bottom on the left, on the top of the control. On Windows, I don't even know what it is, probably on top somewhere. It's backticks, right? You can search on Google how to type a backtick. But if you type a backtick, you can easily combine static text with variables. So we can do something like that. We can do hello, space, and then with this special syntax, I can do $, open and close curly brackets, and then character. That's exactly the same thing. Classic JavaScript and modern JavaScript. In the long term, my suggestion is please do that. Because the more complex your message is, the better and the more readable your code will be. So let's run that and let's see if it works, right? Hello, Donald. Still there, right? Any question? No? Right, so this is probably the most simple thing we can do with JavaScript. But you can imagine that this may become more and more complicated. So previously, someone asked, is this necessarily needs to be a string or could be a different type of data? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it more complicated. Because imagine that I want to display the name of the character, but also the last name, how old he is, how fat he is. I want to display few attributes, right? Imagine on a database. For every user, we got different data, right? So how do we do that? Sorry?
Like an array.
Like an array. It's not an array. We'll talk about arrays later on. So arrays will be useful to display multiple users, but I want to display one. I got Donald. I just want to display first name, last name, like an object. Exactly. That's the word. Probably objects are the most important thing in JavaScript. I'll show you how to create an object. So I'm going to change that code a bit. I'll probably need more space on the screen. Here you go. Right. So I'm going to do here, I'm going to declare a variable called user. And then look, when you create a variable with curly brackets, this represents an object. As this is an object, we can type few properties on it. This is like a database document. So we can type the first name, we can type the last name, we can type age, we can type weight, right? Whatever. Properties of the object, right? That's the object. That's probably the most important structure in the JavaScript world. Remember, you declare a variable like that, and then you assign as the value of the variable whatever you want. If we are talking about objects, you start with curly brackets, then key value pairs, property name, value, property name, value, property name, value, property name, value. It's always about the same, right? If you understand objects, you can do lots of amazing things with JavaScript. So now, what I would like to do is I would like to take that variable, user, and I'm going to send it to the hello function. So let's recap. I created a new variable, user, and I'm going to send the user to the hello function. Right? So now, do you think this will work? What will this display? What? Everything inside. Okay, that's interesting.
What's that top one, the curly bracket on the top?
The curly bracket on the top, that one. Yeah, I'm not going to explain that now because it's going to make everything much more complicated, right? So the reason why we got a curly bracket on top is because we want to surround, we want to encapsulate our code into what in JavaScript is called closure. I don't want to explain closures now. We can have a more advanced session about closures. For now, you can add it. You can add the curly bracket on top and then close it at the bottom. That's it. Right, so again, what will this display?
An array of name values pair.
Hello, an array of?
Name and values pair.
Okay.
Everything that's in
Yeah.
the object.
Yeah. Any other thought about what will that display?
Won't display anything.
It won't display anything. Okay, that's also interesting. Let's see what happened. That's unexpected, right? Hello. Yeah, hello. It's good, right? We wanted hello, but then hello what? Object. That's not nice. That's definitely not what we wanted to do. And the reason is, remember that character is an object. So we need to access each specific property of the object to display something meaningful. And that's the second important thing today. How do we access properties of objects? How do we access this first name, last name, age, and weight?
Dot notation.
Dot notation, exactly. That's it. So we got the character. Character is an object. We agree it's an object, right? Here, thank you. So if we want to display the first name, we need to do character dot first name. Look at how DevTools is already suggesting you how to complete the line, right? Which is good. Remember, object dot and then property of the object that we want to evaluate. So what will that display? Hello Donald. Exactly. That's it, right? And what if now we want to also display the last name? How will you do it? You're going to do it. I'm not going to type anything. Just following what you tell me.
Comma, character, last name.
Comma, character, dot, last name. Interesting.
No, inside the.
Can you just change the dots?
Can you change the dot? No, you can't. In that particular case, you can't. We'll see when that's a valid case, but for this particular case, you can't. Right. What will that display?
I mean, inside the curly brackets.
Yes, because if I run that, what will that display?
No, the string.
Error.
Nothing. The same.
Nothing.
No,
No, I mean the same.
The same. I absolutely disagree on that. Why the same?
Because you didn't put it inside the
Yeah, but listen, we are typing something, right?
the string will display string.
String, exactly. I believe this will display hello Donald, comma, character dot last name.
Yeah.
Look, exactly. You see at the bottom?
Yeah.
Why? The curly. Okay, you tell me. What's missing?
The dollar sign.
Dollar sign. And then what? Curly bracket. And then what?
The closing one.
You probably notice something. At the moment, it's wrong. If I run that, it will fail. But Chrome is already telling you. You see, you got lots of red colors, error messages everywhere, which is good, right? Because you can detect errors quickly. The sooner you detect a problem, the easier it will be to fix. So, as you were suggesting, we just need to close the curly bracket, right? So what will that return? Exactly, with a comma, right? Probably wouldn't even want the comma. Make sense? Yeah? And what if we want to display the age?
The same.
The same. You tell me what's the same.
Dollar sign.
Dollar sign,
Open curly.
open curly, character dot age, right? Exactly. You'll see that I keep asking the same questions again, and again. The only way to become a successful JavaScript developer is repeating the same things again, and again, right? And I can tell you an example. So here we used to do coding challenges, and people tend to be able to solve problems at home quietly. But when I'm sitting near them and I ask the question, they struggle. And they struggle because they feel under pressure, right? That's why the best way to manage pressure is keep trying again, and again, right? I give a talk for Google a few years ago in front of 2,000 people, and I had to train it like 500 times because that was the only way to try to overcome pressure, right? Trying again, and again. Cool. So we got something interesting, right? So we managed how to pass an object, how to display a combination of hard-coded text, variables, you know. So hey, that's good. It's getting nice, right? It's getting good. Now I would like to introduce a new concept in JavaScript, which is conditionals. Imagine that we don't care about the name. We don't care about that. We just want to create a new function. I'm going to change the example a bit now. I'm going to create maybe a real function. It's something that I'll never do in a job interview, but now, I'm going to do it. The function is going to be called am I fat, right? So depending on the weight of the user, it will tell you if you are fat or not, right? So we need to evaluate something. We need to evaluate that property. We know where the property is. The property will be in character dot weight, right? But the question is, how do we do that? We want that to return something like, yes, you are, or something like, no, you aren't.
Like if or else statement.
Exactly, that's it. That's a very important principle in JavaScript. If else. How do we do if else? The way to do if else, we can do if condition. If the condition is true, we can return yes, you are. If the condition is false, we can do the else. That's the opposite, right? So we can say No, you aren't. If else. At the moment, this is invalid because we need to establish the condition. Depending on what, here is where we will decide if our character is fat or not. So to do that, we just need to specify a condition. So we can do something like that. We can do character.weight is above 100. Just random example. So for that particular case, what will that method return? Yes, you are, or not, you aren't.
No, no, you are.
Why?
It's less than 100.
It's less.
No, the first one, yes, you are. I'm confused with age. Sorry.
Yes, you are, right? Make sense? Right. So, yeah, now we got something interesting. This sometimes happens with Chrome. Look, it's still showing me an old result. Hello, Donald. This is invalid. That's sometimes, yeah, that's a problem with Chrome. I hope they will fix it at some point, right? So when you got that error, because that may happen, right? This is completely pointless. Look, this message is gone. That should not never happen again. So when we got that kind of problems, my suggestion is create a new snippet. Sometimes that helps, right? So let me try again. You see, it's still happening. Yes. So that's a problem with Chrome. So sometimes the only thing you can do is just close the DevTools. This is very unfortunate that, hey, that's Chrome, right? It's what it is. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to close DevTools. I'm going to open it again and see if the error got fixed. I'll do it quickly. Still happening. So I'm going to kill Chrome completely, right? And eventually it will work, right? Still, these things are still happening in 2018. Right? So let me try again. Right. So yeah, correct. And now it makes sense, right? What happened now? You'll tell me. We got an error.
Well,
Why?
we have to invoke the function.
Yes.
We have still hello function.
Exactly. You remember we have renamed the function. The previous name was hello, but now for readability purposes, I renamed it to am I fat, right? But I forgot to add it here. That's why we got an error. One of the good things of modern development is that errors used to be very helpful. In that particular case, it takes milliseconds to understand what's going on. Hello is not defined. And even further, Chrome managed to add this kind of underline, red underline, right, to highlight where the error is. So that's really good. That's one of the good things of modern development. So the only thing I need to do is to rename hello with am I fat, right? And you see, for that particular case, it tells you, yes, you are. And what happens if I change the weight to 99? What will that return? No, you aren't. Exactly. Right? If else. Easy. I know that in some cases, this, you can imagine, is more complicated, right? And every time you face a complicated problem, there are different approaches to get rid of the issue. I'm going to show you my favorite one. It's about debugging. With Chrome, we can debug. We can add breakpoints. We can stop the code at any particular line and inspect what the values are. Imagine that because of whatever reason, you think that, hey, this code is wrong. That should return yes, you are. It's still returning no, you aren't. You don't know what's going on. That will happen. For these cases, look what you can do today. You can click on any line on the left-hand side. You see the lines on the left? So you can click at any line. For instance, I'm going to click on line number 3, line number 4, and line number 6. So that means that if I run the example again, it will stop on the green lines. It will stop on these lines. We'll see the order. I'm just going to show you the example. If I run the test, you see the green line? It's stopping on line number 3. This is good because it's stopping, so then you can evaluate your data model. You can see what the value of your variables are. So for instance, I can hover over weight and it's telling you it's 99. Because of that, the question I got for you is, do you think the next stop will be line number 4 or line number 6? 6. Exactly, right? You got the error, you got the message, sorry. Right? Debugging. I'm not expecting you to understand how to debug everything right now, but please know that this is the most important thing when you want to get rid of issues. I've seen people doing like console messages, like console.log, yes is fat, and then another console.log, no, right? Console.log is things that will be written down on the console. So if I run the example again, you get the message. What do you think about that? Is it a good idea or not?
One of each should be console log right now.
Yeah, but imagine that you just want to see what's going on. So you can add messages around the code. You see, whenever you type console log, at the bottom, you got the console log, you got the message. Do you think this is a good idea when you want to debug code in JavaScript?
No.
Why? Yes, that's terrible. Never do that. If you ever go to a job interview, never start typing console logs. I'll tell you something else. If you open any website, if you do right click and you open the console, I'm pretty sure that not on every website, but in so many websites, you'll see lots of messages. That's terrible because this is public information, right? You'll see the developers typing messages on the console. Don't do that. Don't do that. If you do that, it proves that you don't know how to debug code, right? So again, if you don't understand what's going on, because that's normal, we are humans, we fail, we make mistakes, don't add as far as possible console logs. Add breakpoints, like I'm doing now, yes, and then run the code and inspect the state, inspect the variables, see what's going on, right? Any question? No?
Can you show?
Yep.
If you don't mind, can you just set the breakpoints again?
Yeah, of course I can set it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can set the breakpoints up again. So, and let me add the breakpoint line number 3. I'm going to remove the console logs because we know that we shouldn't do that, right? So line number 3, and line number 4, and line number 6. So you'll tell me where the executing script will stop on. Which lines?
On the else portion.
Yeah, but it will be, so will it stop on line number 6 first? Will that be the first stop?
No, first we'll check on the.
Correct? Yeah? And then what?
And it will come out.
Come out.
It's true.
It's true. Is it true at the moment?
It's not true.
It's not true. So then what?
So it will go to the else.
Exactly. Exactly. So it will stop on line number 3, and then it will stop on line number 6. Thank you. Let's do that. Line number 3, I play again. Line number 6, and that's it. We got the message, right? I know that some of you are thinking, hey, this is stupid. This is not necessary. I mean, trust me, code may become complex, right? And complicated. So at some point, you'll need that. We need that. I need that every day. And that's really useful. Questions? No? Right. So we've learned strings. We've learned numbers because we managed to compare, right? If the number is above or below 100. And let's talk about arrays, as someone proposed before. So an array is another very important data structure in JavaScript. So arrays are useful when you want to host a list of items. In that particular case, we just got one user. It's okay. But you can imagine that your platform will have more than one user, hopefully, right? Because of that, I can replace everything. I'm going back to the hello example, right? And look at what I'm doing now. It's not going to be user. It's going to be users, right? And I'm going look at the syntax. Instead of curly brackets, now we got square brackets. So with the square brackets, we can define a list of users. It's going to be Donald, it's going to be Kim, it's going to be Boris. A list of users, right? So then, now we need to think how to say hello to our characters, right? And the first thing is, what happens if I run the code now? Nothing. What nothing means? Undefined? No. Strange?
No,
Null? Come on, keep doing, keep talking.
nothing. We have
Nothing.
in my fit
Yeah.
function, then we have hello.
Yeah. I think,
There's no function.
what?
My
It's not
function
different.
is not different.
Syntax error.
Correct. That will throw few errors. There are at least two things wrong at the moment on the screen. The first thing, the function name. You are right. I don't have any function called my fat, so it will fail. So let's rename that. But then,
User.
exactly, that's a classic typo in JavaScript. You do your stuff, you think you are right, but then you execute it, boom, you got an error. User is not defined, and say, yeah, declare it. Oh no, that was plural, right? Users. Yeah. Semantics are very important because semantics is the way you explain what you're doing. Do you think that's correct? If I change users back to user in singular? It's correct. It's not going to fail, it's correct. But to me, this is a bad practice. Because if you want to declare a list of things, you should declare it in plural. Otherwise, the message you are telling to your colleagues is confusing. It's like, hey, wait a minute. What does it want to do? Does it want to create a user? But we got a list of users. You know, let's try to work on readability. That's vital, right? On the recent years, the top companies on the tech industry are making huge efforts to improve readability. A code that is not readable is impossible to maintain, right? If someone who is maintaining the code leaves the company, no one else will be able to maintain that code. The company has a big problem. Because of that, some big players on the industry are doing huge efforts to define patterns about how you should make your code readable. There are a few good examples. The first thing is Google. Google is making good efforts. They created some style guides to declare how you should make a readable code. But then there is, my favorite one comes from Airbnb. So Airbnb, a few years ago, they published, this is open source, so you can have a look on the internet. So they created a style guide that they recommend you how to do things with JavaScript. It's just a styling, right? Just a styling. Should I use lowercase? Should I use capitals? Should I use underscore? Should I use dashes? Should I use, all these things? They tell you how, under the point of view, you should write JavaScript. It's really good. So yeah, again, we got users. Users here, users there. At the moment, we are calling hello, but the hello function is empty, right? So we need to do something here. First of all, do you know how can I say hello to the first element of the array? How to access the first element of the array?
0.
Yes.
And I think
You remember that from the coding challenge last week? Brilliant. We learned something. Brilliant. Thank you. So here, what we could do is we could do return. Again, backticks, string literals, hello, space, dollar, open, close, curly brackets, and then character. Again, character. Do you prefer character or characters?
characters.
Plural, because of the same reason, right? Readability. So the way we access element on the array is we open square brackets and then we set the index of the element. So if we want to access the first element, will that work? No.
But will be with the king.
Correct. Why?
Because it starts with 0, the array.
Exactly. JavaScript is sometimes special. It's not natural like humans are at some extent. So if you're a human, you're thinking on a ranking of, I don't know, your favorite TV shows. The first one is 1, right? But in JavaScript, the first element is not 1, it's 0, right? So if we do that, I will expect that to return hello Donald. So then, how can I say hello to Boris?
Change 0
One.
to
2. Exactly. Hello Boris. Yep. So arrays start from 0 until the end. So Donald is 0, Kim is 1, and Boris is 2. Cool? And how do we know how many characters do we have in the list? Length. So the number of characters is length. How do you type length here?
Not
Dot length. Exactly. So what will that return?
3,
2 or 3?
3.
3. Exactly. You're right. And then what happens if I type that? The last character is, look at what I'm doing now. What will that return?
Boris.
What?
Boris.
Boris. No. Yes, no. I need arguments.
length of 1.
Plus 1.
Minus.
Minus 1.
No, plus. Stop.
No, there is
Minus.
Yeah, minus.
Why?
because it's 0, 1, 2. There is no 3.
Exactly. Exactly. Let's see what happens if we run that.
It's 3, so we don't have 3.
Look.
index.
Exactly. The character is undefined. That's a very exotic character, right? Why we got that? Because let's set a breakpoint, right? Let's try to understand that piece of code. If I execute that piece of code, characters, look at the length. You see? 3. However, we learned that the indexes start at 0. So characters of 3 doesn't exist, right? There's nothing in there. Because of that, that returns undefined. So if we want to fix that, what do we need to do?
Minus.
-1 there. Will that work? Yes or no? And why?
No.
No.
Puts
Yeah.
to character dot length.
Yeah.
You have to put inside the
Yeah.
this one.
So inside the square.
Inside the square brackets and then -1.
Inside the scope, but
No
this.
square like the function hello user
Yeah.
inside that.
It's fine.
I think it should work.
I think it should work. Yeah, that's a classic problem, right? So when we do a coding challenge, most of the questions, the answer is literally 1 line. It's 30 seconds. And I see people writing like the Bible, like, what are you doing? You just need to return something, right? 1 line. This is a good example. That should work. It's completely right? So usually, if you think about something, sometimes it works. So what I recommend you, if you think that may work, let's try it and see what happens. So let's try that. It works. Right? Make sense? Right. But then I'm going to make it even more complicated. Let's bring some spice to our session. I want to display all the character names. I want to say hello to everybody on my list. 4. Okay, so how do you do that? For what?
The character.
For characters,
No,
for
for I.
I
For I equal to
equals 0.
I
less than the length of the.
Yep.
yeah, like
Length plus plus, I plus plus. Right? This is a loop. Right, so I want to do a console log saying hello to everybody. Right? So if we do that, I add a console log and say hello, and then what?
Character.
Character of I. Okay, that sounds interesting. How do you do the I? Brackets. Exactly. So can you tell me what this will return?
Oh, it's not different.
Extra beer for whoever managed to get the right answer.
Double can Boris
One
one line.
line.
Really?
3 lines.
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of what you're trying to do.
Hello, Donald.
Hello, Kim Boris.
Yeah.
Hello, Donald, Kim, Boris. How many lines?
One line.
1
1 line.
line. 3 lines. 4 lines. 20 lines. 1 line.
Like 3 lines.
3 lines. Why 3 lines?
Yeah, they're not
3
sure.
lines.
Yeah, each time console.log is.
Yeah, because it goes like looking, you know,
Exactly.
before it stops.
Exactly. So it will run the console log, hopefully, 3 times, right? Because of that, it will run 3 lines, I believe. I mean, let's try that and see if we are right or we are wrong. Look, hello Donald, hello Kim, and hello Boris. 3 lines. Cool. Does it make sense? I mean, that's okay. That's good. Probably you got the job. But, again, this is 1991 JavaScript. To me, that sounds a little bit weird, right? This is like listening mother talking today. It's like, it's fine, but don't do that on a job interview. So I'm going to recommend you a better way to do that, right? Because this is error prone. Look, what happened if I change something here? You can do something wrong. You need to type so many things. You need to manually create the I variable. You need to manually do the condition. You need to manually increase the value. Still okay. Don't get me wrong. Still okay. However,
You need loops.
sorry.
You need loops.
Yes, we can, with modern JavaScript, there are other ways to loop over arrays. I'm going again to leave that there just for reference purposes. But what we could do now is look how easy with modern JavaScript this is. I can do characters because this is my array, and then I can do dot for each, which means that it will run for each element of the array, and I can create a function. So that function will be called how many times?
For each of the things.
So how many times?
3.
3. So we got the same, but we didn't have to create a new variable. We didn't have to add a condition. That will happen automatically under the hood.
So it's the same, yeah, for each of these 4 is the same.
It's the same, exactly. We'll prove that in a minute. Look. And it's even easier because if we do that as the parameter, as the argument of the function, here we will receive each element of the array. So on the first stop, it will be set to Donald. On the second stop, it will be Kim. And on the last one, it will be Boris. So I can create a new variable here. The name doesn't matter again. And then I can do console.log. Let's use backticks. Hello character. Let's try that and see what happens. Look, we got exactly the same result. Remember, you got the array, you call the for each method, and then we pass a function. That function will be called 3 times. We can actually add a breakpoint and prove the theory. If we run the example again, look, on the first time, character is Donald. Next iteration, character is Kim. Last iteration, character is Boris. And that's it. Make sense? Any question?
Not a stupid question.
Yep.
I++.
Yep.
And this
I++. Okay, right. Let's go back to 1991 JavaScript. So in this particular example, when you do I++, this is a special JavaScript thingy. So here, let's read the line. You say, hey, create a variable, somehow, I, which original value is 0. Fair enough. And then do whatever happens here, if I is below characters.length.
Yeah.
Characters.length is 3, exactly. So the first time is 0 less than 3, yes? It will jump. So it will run that. And then once that line has been executed, it will run this bit here. I++ is a shorthand of I equals I plus 1. This is more riddle, right?
Yeah.
So this is what will happen.
It increases the counter.
Increases the counter. Exactly. That's it, right? So that's a classic thing in software development, to do the plus, right? This is not about JavaScript.
Okay.
Maybe you've heard about something called C Sharp, programming languages, but then we got C++. So it's like about that, right? Cool. So again, this is correct. I will never complain about that. But as far as possible, try to do that. Because this is more modern. This is more readable. It's less error prone, right? Is there any question? Also, I would like to improve that example a bit. And I would like to show you how to create this kind of structures with modern JavaScript. So at the moment, we had to do that, create function and do a few things here. So there is a way with modern JavaScript to write a little bit less, to keep the syntax more, compact a bit. I'm going to show you how to do it. This will deserve a new talk to specifically talk about that kind of things, but just to give you an idea about what you can do with modern JavaScript. So when you want to create a function like that, you can actually remove the word function, and you can add equal and an arrow, right? So this is evaluated as a function. It's the same thing. I'm going to type it again in 2 lines, actually. So this is the original function, and then look at the change. I remove the function word, and I add equals and the greater symbol. That's exactly the same example. So if we run that, you see, we got the same result. Again, I'm not going to talk about all the details about this pattern, which is called arrow functions. This is just to let you know that you can do this kind of thing with JavaScript, which is good, because if we wanted to improve it further, look, we could make it inline. We could even remove that. Look, 1 line. If you do that, it proves that you really know JavaScript. We got the same result, but we just had to wait pretty much 1 line of code instead of 3. Any question?
Is the arrow notation?
This is arrow notation. Exactly.
Just don't really understand why do we call users instead of characters?
Why we call it users?
Instead of characters.
Yes, because this is one thing, and let me get rid of that, and that is a separate thing. So you can use the name you want. That doesn't matter. So what happens if I replace characters with foo? Will it work? Yes? No? Yes? It will work. So this is one thing. You declare... Sorry?
It doesn't matter if you change the.
It doesn't matter. So the only 2 things you need to take into consideration is if you declare a variable called users, then when you call the function, you need to type users again, right? Definitely. If I type something random, yes, it will fail. Exactly.
Or if you call the foo.
What if I call foo? You'll tell me. What will happen now?
Foo has to be replaced with
Still it's not
something.
defined.
Still is undefined. Yes. So in that particular context, that level, you just have one variable called users. If you declare anything else apart from users, it will fail, as you can see here. That's context number 1. And then the function is context number 2. So it doesn't matter what you type here, as far as this variable is used here. So if I type here iPad, which doesn't make any sense, functionally speaking, but in reality, that will work, as you can see.
It's the last undefined.
Yes, the last undefined is because this is returning nothing. So if here we return, the function returns nothing. We can return hello meetup members. So if we do that, you see, it doesn't return undefined anymore. Yes, it's a silly thing. Don't worry about that. Right.
But you change character from item.
Yep.
That's different.
Yep.
For each character different.
Yep. So again, you declare a variable, you call the hello function with the very same name, and then once you are executing that function, it doesn't matter what was the original name you pass here. It doesn't matter. It's a separate execution context. The only important thing is whatever you declare here should be used there.
And how does it know to pick up the variables if you don't?
Yes, that's a good question. Because here you are invoking the hello function with how many arguments? 1, exactly. So when you declare the function, the first argument you pass will be assigned to the first variable you declare here, right? So if here we declare another variable called, I'll do it, it's Tuesday, how could we display a console log of it's Tuesday? You'll tell me.
That's the second parameter to function hello.
Exactly. So you can add a second argument here,
Argument.
or parameter. That's I will also accept that, right? So the message sent is message, right? So if you do that, what will happen? How many console log messages will it display now? 1. 2. 2. Why 2?
No, one, just one.
1. 4.
Because 3 times Donald came Boris on the first.
You got it, exactly. So it will display, first of all, that message, and then, remember, that's still there, right? So it will display, the message sent is, it's Tuesday. And then it will display, hello Donald, hello Kim, and hello Boris. Here you go. 4 console log messages.
Because the hello at the bottom is the function name at the top. So it has all the actions there, then it just adds the users,
Yep.
which is the name.
Yep. So we got a hello function with 2 arguments. iPad, horrible name, and message, better name, right? So whenever we call hello, the first variable we pass, that's the first variable, right, will be assigned to iPad. The second variable we pass will be assigned to message. What happens if I add a new variable, a third one? How many console logs will be displayed now?
Still four.
Still 4. Why?
The third one will be not.
Exactly. You got it. You got it. We are sending a third argument, which is okay, but then the function is not expecting any third argument, right? So it's like, you can send me whatever you want, but I'm going to ignore you, right? So if we run that again, literally is the same thing, right?
So it doesn't matter that you still got character.
No, that one.
Yeah.
No, that's again because that's a new context. So every time you create a function, let me go back to classic functions because otherwise it could be a little bit more confusing, right? Right. So let me just do that, and then let me do that, right? So this is pretty much what we got. Let me see if it still works. It still works, right? So every time you create a new function, this is a function, but that's a function as well. You can declare the name you want. That doesn't matter. It's different context, exactly. So in other words, that function will be called how many times? 3 times, exactly. And the character argument will be assigned to each individual variable on the array. Right? Questions? Does it make sense? Right? I'm not going to make it more complicated today. We got 55 minutes. I'll just keep doing simple things for 5 minutes, and we'll call it a day for today, right? I think that's enough for the first session. So something I would like to show you, which is probably simpler than that, but you got some understanding about functions and stuff. So look, I'm going to give you a problem. So I want you to create a function, and we got 4 minutes and 35 seconds to do it. So the function, look, I'm going to start again, so pay attention. So I'm going to create a function called add values, which will receive an array of values. So I'm going to call that here add values, and I'm going to send a single argument, an array, with 3 numbers, 3, 1, and 5. So I want that function to return what's the result of adding these 3 values, which is 3 plus 1 plus 5, 9. The example is easy to grasp, right? But then you'll tell me, how can I do that?
Still are going to use the for each.
For each.
Look through the elements of
Yep.
the array.
Yep.
Actually, that is an array.
Yep. Right. So okay. So you do values dot for each.
Okay, first let's declare a variable for
Yep.
total
Let total
equals 0.
equals 0. Why 0?
Maybe.
No, I mean that's fine. I can
Yeah, we can
I can type Boris Johnson, but it won't help, right? So 0 is okay. Yes, I want you to tell me why 0.
Okay, we have numbers.
We got numbers. Makes sense, right? We want to add values. The default is 0. You got nothing. Yeah, that's a good point. And then what?
Okay, for each.
Yep.
Then open.
Yep.
Let's declare array or just put a name.
Function.
Function.
Yeah. And then what? 2.5 minutes left. No pressure.
You do values.
Values. Values. In plural or singular?
No, value.
Value. Why value?
Because you've already used values.
Exactly. And this will represent each individual value of the array. Good point. You got it.
Okay, open curly brackets.
Open curly brackets.
Total
Total
plus equal
plus equal
value.
value.
Yeah, value.
Yeah. You remember that's a shorthand. Could you do that without this shiny shorthand?
Yeah, total equals total.
Total equals total plus value. Right? It's the same thing. That's it. What will this return?
You need to return.
Yeah, just do the return.
Exactly. At the moment, this will return nothing because we don't have any return statement, right? So we got total and we need to return it. Return total. Does it make sense? Let's try it. Exactly. You got it. It works, right?
If we put the total outside the function, then we can remove the return instead.
If we put total,
Outside the function,
okay.
declare it var.
Yes, I don't want to do that because that will be confusing. But yes, you're right. So yeah, we got that. We got 9. It works. What happened if I add a new variable? Do I need to change anything on my shiny function?
No,
No, why?
So it's inside.
there is no length, it's for each.
Exactly. So the beautifulness of this simple algorithm is that it doesn't care if we have 1 element, 10 elements, or 1,000,000 elements. It will just loop. It will add them all, right? Right. So that will return what?
15.
Exactly. Right. So let's finally, because I still got 40 seconds left, let's add a breakpoint. How many times it will stop on line number 5? And how many times? 4. What will be the value on the first iteration?
3.
Exactly. Next value?
That's
4.
4.
Why 4?
You add it.
I'm asking for the value, not the total.
1.
Wow,
Yeah.
yes.
And the value will be now still 3. Right, let me start again.
Because you haven't added.
Exactly. Let's start again. Let's start again. Right. So value is, you know what value is, right? 3. 3, then 1, then 5. But then there's total. What's the value of total now?
3.
3? Are you sure?
Size.
It's 0, right? Because we haven't calculated anything. Still default. Right, next time. What's the value of total?
3,
3. Exactly. And then what's the value of total?
4,
Exactly. And then what's the value of total?
9.
Yep. And then, that's it. We got 15. Questions? No? So, no? Good? Cool. Did that make any sense? Cool. So this is the first introduction to JavaScript. Obviously, there are more things on top of that, but if you manage to master these few things, strings, numbers, objects, arrays, you can definitely build complicated stuff. So that's all you need to start working with JavaScript. So I'm going to stop it here. I would just like to say thank you again for coming. It was a very nice experience for me. I hope it was for you as well. And please don't leave now, because we are going to bring beers and we're going to enjoy our amazing terrace on the back. Right? So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.